It was a Monday morning like any other, the coffee machine sputtering in the kitchen, sunlight warming the hallway, but something was wrong, the silence too deep, too final. I called out her name once, then again, no reply, just the echo of my own voice bouncing off the walls of a house that now felt abandoned. I walked to the bedroom and that's when I saw it, a single envelope on the dresser with my name on it in her handwriting. Inside, just a few words. I can't do this anymore. Don't look for me. No explanation, no apology, just cold ink on white paper. The closet was half empty, drawers pulled open, jewelry gone. She'd packed up her life and vanished while I slept. I stood there for a long time, staring at nothing, trying to make sense of everything, wondering how the woman I loved could disappear like a ghost, taking everything we built and throwing it away like it meant nothing. The house felt unbearably empty, every room a cavern of silence that pressed down on me like a heavy fog. I wandered aimlessly, clutching her note like a lifeline and a curse. Every corner seemed to mock the void she left behind. I tried calling her number countless times, my voice breaking as I left desperate messages, each unanswered call tightening the knot of panic in my chest. Memories flooded me, the mornings she brewed coffee, the way her laughter filled the kitchen, the warmth of her touch now replaced by this chilling absence. I checked my phone obsessively, hoping for any sign, but only darkness stared back. The small details began to unravel my mind, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the bedroom, the half-finished book on the nightstand, the cold coffee cup left untouched in the sink, all these echoes of a life paused so abruptly that it felt like a cruel dream. Then I stumbled upon a receipt discarded in the trash. The name of a restaurant I didn't recognize. Scribbled on the back a single word, David, a name that twisted like a knife in my gut. My heart thundered with questions, doubts gnawed at me. Was there someone else? Had I been blind? How much of what I thought I knew was a lie? I grabbed my coat and keys, determination setting fire beneath the despair. I had to follow this thread, to face whatever truth was waiting in the shadows before it swallowed me whole. The days that followed her disappearance felt like a slow unraveling of everything I thought was real. Every corner of the house whispered her absence, and yet it was the quiet moments that hurt the most. The empty chair at the kitchen table, the soft glow of her favorite lamp left burning through the night, reminders of a life that had been pulled out from beneath me. I found myself replaying conversations, searching for the cracks I'd ignored, the silences I had excused, the tired eyes that no longer met mine with warmth. I pored over old messages, calls she had deleted, hoping to catch a glimpse of what I had missed, but the more I searched, the clearer it became. She had been hiding something, secrets buried beneath smiles and carefully crafted lies. The name David surfaced again and again, a shadow lurking behind her sudden departure. I questioned our friends, some too afraid, others unwilling to betray her confidence. But a few cracks appeared in their stories. Whispers of late nights and hidden meetings. The realization hit me hard. The woman I thought I knew was a stranger wearing my life like a mask, and the pain of that truth cut deeper than any absence. But amid the swirling doubts, one constant remained, James, my son, whose innocent questions and quiet strength grounded me when the world threatened to collapse. With him beside me, I resolved to follow the trail no matter where it led, to confront the darkness that had swallowed our family whole. The lead I had been chasing finally brought me to a quiet restaurant tucked away in the outskirts of town, a place she frequented in secret, where she met a man named David, whose presence was more than just business. As I sat hidden in the shadows, watching her laugh and leaning close, my heart shattered with each smile she cast his way. Months of deception flashed before me, lies about late nights at work, whispered phone calls hurriedly ended when I entered the room. All the subtle signs I had brushed off now screaming betrayal. My hands trembled as I uncovered a hidden folder in her desk marked Estate Matters, thick with documents outlining plans to claim a vast inheritance tied to my family's legacy. Her greed laid bare in cold ink. It was no longer just about love lost but a calculated scheme for power and wealth. Confronted by this harsh reality, I confronted friends who painted her as a victim, but I saw through the facade. Each story unraveling like threads in a tapestry of lies. The woman I loved was a stranger driven by selfish ambition. The pain was sharp but gave me clarity and purpose, to fight for what was mine, to protect my son from the ruin she had tried to build around us. This was a war for the truth, and I was ready to wage. The deeper I delved into the labyrinth of lies she had woven, the more the mask she wore began to crumble. Each conversation with her acquaintances peeled back another layer of the carefully constructed facade. Friends who once vouched for her began to hesitate, whispering about secret meetings, forged documents, and plans to seize control of my family's estate. I confronted the harsh truth that the woman I had loved was nothing more than a stranger cloaked in ambition and deceit. I uncovered messages between her and David, exchanges filled with cold calculation and schemes to manipulate legal loopholes. The betrayal stabbed at me not only because of the infidelity but because every smile, every tender moment I had believed in was a part of the act. The house that once felt like a sanctuary now became a prison of shattered illusions, and I felt a mixture of anger, heartbreak, and a burning desire for justice, through the haze of betrayal. The one light that kept me anchored was my son James, who sensed the turmoil and silently stood by my side, giving me strength I never knew I had. I vowed that I would not let her destroy what little was left of our family. This was not just about losing a wife, it was about reclaiming my life and protecting my son from the wreckage she intended to leave behind. James, though only a boy, carried a wisdom beyond his years. One evening over a quiet dinner, he accidentally let slip a conversation he had overheard between his mother and David. Fragments of words, documents, money, plans, a puzzle piece in the unfolding mystery. Despite his fear, he trusted me enough to share what he knew, and in that moment, I realized he was more than just a witness. He was a key to unraveling the dark web she had spun. Together we began to piece together timelines, secret meetings, and hidden motives, each discovery a painful blow but also a beacon of hope in the darkness. The bond between us strengthened by shared adversity. James' courage inspired me to keep fighting, to face the betrayal head-on and ensure that no shadow of her treachery would taint his future. Every step we took brought us closer to the truth and further from the woman who had abandoned us. It was a fight not only for inheritance or justice, but for the very soul of our family. She did not stay silent long after I began uncovering her secrets. Rumors spread quickly as she tried to rewrite the narrative, painting herself as the victim of abandonment and cruelty, attempting to sway mutual friends and family to her side with false stories and manipulations. But I knew better. Beneath her victim act lurked a calculated plan to regain control of the inheritance and our lives. The battle lines were drawn clearly now, a war fought in courtrooms and whispered conversations, in lawyers' offices and behind closed doors. Every move she made was met with resistance, every attempt to manipulate and deceive countered by evidence and resolve. The tension grew as the stakes rose, but I refused to be fooled again. This was no longer just about love lost but about survival and justice. With James by my side and truth as our weapon, I prepared for the long fight ahead, knowing the woman who once wore the mask of my wife was now my fiercest adversary. The estate, once a symbol of family legacy and memories, turned into a cold battlefield where lawyers replaced loved ones and every word spoken carried the weight of lives torn apart. As the fight over the inheritance escalated, I found myself navigating a maze of legal jargon, secret clauses, and hidden agendas that she and her allies had carefully constructed to trap me. The courtroom became a stage for deception and power plays, each hearing revealing more of her calculated attempts to wrest control. Forged documents surfaced, witnesses who had been coached to lie. But I was not alone. Friends, honest lawyers, and most importantly James stood with me, and together we faced the storm. The process was grueling, draining every ounce of strength and hope, but the truth was on our side. The evidence I had painstakingly gathered began to tip the scales. Her confidence faltered as cracks appeared in her story. The woman who once smiled so easily now wore a mask of desperation. But I was determined to see this through, not just to claim what was rightfully ours but to expose the betrayal that had poisoned our lives. The tension that had been building finally snapped when she made a critical mistake, a careless phone call, a slip of the tongue captured on a hidden recording. Suddenly the entire house of cards she had built came crashing down, the arrogance and cold calculation replaced by panic and desperation. Her lies unraveled in the courtroom as the judge and jury heard truth she could no longer deny. I watched as the woman who had tried to destroy my life shrank before my eyes, stripped of power and dignity. Even her attempts to manipulate James backfired spectacularly. The boy stood firm, his loyalty unwavering. The tables had turned completely, and I felt a surge of vindication mixed with sorrow for what was lost but relief that justice was finally within reach. The breaking point was not just a legal victory but a moment of reckoning where the mask of deceit fell away, revealing the truth in all its bitter clarity. Her disappearance this time was not by choice but forced by the harsh light of public disgrace and legal defeat. Whispers of scandal spread through the family and community. Friends who had once stood by her abandoned her. Her name became synonymous with betrayal and greed. While I focused on rebuilding the fractured pieces of my life, the loyalty and love of James became my anchor and strength. Slowly but surely, peace returned to the house. The estate secured and our future protected. The past remained a shadow but no longer a prison. I vowed to never let betrayal rule my life again and to protect what truly mattered, my son and the legacy we would build together. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when the knock came, slow and uncertain like a memory that didn't know whether it should return or stay buried. I opened the door and there she stood, Anna, the woman who once shared my name, my house, my bed, her hair perfectly styled, her lips curled in that familiar smile she used when she wanted something, but her eyes, they told a different story now, desperate, calculating. She stepped forward with a suitcase and a rehearsed sigh, saying she made a mistake. That she missed me and James, that life without us was unbearable. She reached to touch my face like we were still the same people, but I didn't move, didn't blink, didn't flinch. I just stared, silent, letting her fill the air with her lies. She tried to push past me but I held the frame of the door like a wall, asking her where she had been, why she never answered my calls, what happened to the money in our joint account. Her expression twitched then, the smile faded, replaced by the cold glint I'd seen once in a mirror when I first read that note she left. She said she'd been confused, needed time to think, that David wasn't who she thought, that he had used her, lied to her. I almost laughed but didn't. She wasn't here because she loved me, she was here because she had nowhere else to go. I told her James wasn't home, that he didn't talk about her anymore, that he'd stopped asking when she was coming back months ago. I watched something crack behind her eyes, but she covered it quickly with a tear and asked if she could come in. I stepped aside, not because I forgave her, but because I wanted her to see what she'd lost, to walk through the hallways where her pictures used to hang, to feel the silence she'd left behind. She noticed the missing frames, the absence of her perfume, the coldness of the kitchen where she once ruled like a queen. She tried to sit on the couch but I kept standing, watching her, her hands clasped, her voice breaking as she begged for another chance. And that's when I laid out everything I knew, the inheritance she thought was hidden, the document she tried to forge, the conversation I'd overheard between her and David when he called her partner in crime, the offshore accounts, the life insurance policy she'd secretly taken out in my name. Her face paled, her lips trembled. She whispered my name like it might still save her, but it was too late. The curtain had fallen, and this was just the beginning of her exposure. She had returned not as my wife, but as a stranger who'd burned the bridge and now stood at the edge of her own ruin, and I was going to let her feel every step of it. I agreed to meet her in a quiet cafe on the edge of town, a place we used to visit years ago when things still felt real, when smiles weren't fake and love wasn't conditional. I arrived first and watched the door with a strange calm, part of me curious, part of me detached. Then she walked in, looking thinner, more careful in her movements, like someone who's lived through too many lies and now doesn't know which mask to wear. She smiled faintly like she expected I'd still care, like maybe I'd melt just seeing her, but I didn't. I just nodded and gestured to the seat across from me. Silence sat with us for a long time until she finally spoke, her voice shaking. She said she missed me, that she was wrong, that everything with her ex fell apart, that he didn't love her, that she realized too late what she'd thrown away. She tried to cry but the tears wouldn't come, or maybe I just didn't believe them anymore. I asked her if she missed me or the life she left behind, the stability, the house, the future I once promised her. She looked down and said she missed everything, especially now that she knew about the inheritance. I didn't flinch. I let her speak. She asked if we could start again, if we could fix things, if I could forgive her, that people make mistakes, that love means trying again. But I just stared at her, letting her unravel in front of me. Every word she said sounded rehearsed, shallow, empty like the note she left me. I told her I wasn't the same man anymore, that getting sick, being abandoned, and clawing my way back changed me, that I wasn't looking for someone who runs at the first shadow of trouble. I reminded her how I begged her not to give up, how she left without a fight, how she erased me with a single sentence and never looked back. She tried to say she was scared, that she thought I'd die, that it was too much, but I didn't let her finish. I told her the man she left behind died that night, and the man sitting in front of her now wouldn't ever let someone like her back into his life, not after everything. Not after knowing she only came back because the money was real, because her plan failed and she needed a safety net. I stood up, left a few bills on the table, and walked out while she called my name, her voice trembling behind me like a weak wind trying to stir a mountain. I didn't turn around, not once. I just kept walking, lighter than I had in months. The court hearing wasn't supposed to be dramatic, but sometimes the truth carries its own fireworks. I didn't want revenge in the traditional sense. I just wanted closure, a final moment where everything that had been broken could be laid bare. She arrived with that same fake composure, still pretending she had dignity left, but it cracked the moment my lawyer presented the timeline, the evidence. The messages she sent to her lover while I was in the hospital, the proof that she drained our joint account days before leaving, the lies she fed our son about why she left. James sat beside me, now a young man with fire in his eyes, watching every second like it was a movie he needed to see end properly. She tried to interrupt, to cry, to explain, but the judge silenced her with a glance. Then came the part that hit hardest, a letter from James himself, read aloud by the clerk, his words calm and brutal, how he lost respect for his mother. How he watched her disappear from his father's life and his own, how he saw her try to crawl back only when money appeared, how no child should have to learn the word betrayal from their own parent. She tried to stand, her face pale and broken, whispering his name, but he didn't look at her, not once, and in that silence the courtroom turned cold. There was no shouting, no drama, just a quiet end to everything she tried to manipulate. The judge ruled in my favor. She wouldn't get a cent, the inheritance was protected, my health had returned, my company had grown stronger, and the people who stood by me when I had nothing were now part of a future she could never touch. As I walked out, cameras flashed, reporters asked if I had a statement. I just said, some people leave when they think you're weak, and return when they think you're rich, but the door they closed behind them doesn't always stay unlocked. I saw her one last time outside, standing alone. No one waiting, no one calling her name. And for the first time I didn't feel hurt or hate, just peace, pure, solid peace, because she wasn't mine to lose anymore.